Erev Tov Rabbosai. This evening we are arriving at the Midah of Netzach Shebetfaaret. It happens to be that this year we are celebrating Yom haatzmaut on the Midah of Netzach Shebetfaaret. Me'ikar Adin He'ir is usually Yesod Shebetfaaret. We've spoken about this in previous years. The Midah of Yesod Shebetfaaret, which you already have from the Kisvei Ari, and from the Ramak and from the Ramchal and from the Beis Medrash of the Gan of Vilna, that the day of Yesod Shebetfaaret is a day that there's no shlita of the klipos. That would be a day that would be part and parcel of the building of the Jewish people's return to the land of Israel. Ad kedei kach that the Beis Medrash of the Vilna Gan, they were miyasid on the day of Yesod Shebetfaaret in the Surah Saimer, because that was that which they were mekabel from the Gaon. But this year we are celebrating Yom haatzmaut on the Midah of Netzach Shebetfaaret, and perhaps that is particularly apropos to the avoda that Klal Yisrael is encountering and going through bedafka this year, because as we have pointed out, the Midah of Tiferes is the Midah of Rachamim, is the Midah of Emes. It's the midah of Shleimus, of Yaakov Avinu, of Taras Hashem Tamima, of all of the things that Klal Yisrael is fighting for. But paradigmatically, the midah of Tiferes is also the guf of the Jewish people. That is, the Jewish people ourselves. We are Tiferes. Yisrael Asher B'cha Espire. And more than any year previously in our lifetimes, we have seen the awakening, or reawakening, if you will, of the hatred of the Jewish people, the hatred of Tiferes Yisrael. And to combat that, we are in desperate need of exemplifying, of indicating, of acting with Midas HaNetzach, to be victorious, to ensure the continuity, the victory, the success of Tiferes Yisrael, which is ultimately the avoda of the Midah of Netzach Shebetfaaret, to be victorious in order that Tiferes should exist. What that means in the world of Ben Adam Lemakom is to understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu deeply wants us to keep fighting. But the Ratzon HaBorah is that a Jew should keep fighting, and that Klal Yisrael should keep fighting, and that Chaylei Tzva Haganah Yisrael should keep fighting, and that each and every one of us against the forces internal to us and external to us that are trying to crush us, whether that be the Ummah Sa'olam or the Yetzer Hara, or in the language of the Gemara Brachas, Sa'or Shebe'isa v'Shibur Malchus. There is the Chometz that's within the dough, the Yetzer Hara, v'Shibur Malchus, and the nations that are ganging up against us. These two things are the things that pull us away from avodas Hashem, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be menatzeach those things. What happens if we are being unsuccessful? What happens if we discover that we are not winning? We're not winning the fight. So what's the avoda at that point in time? The avoda is Netzach Shebetfaaret, is you have to keep going. I mean, there's no such thing as giving up the fight. That's the point. There's never a time that a Jew can say, look, I lost. I was trying to beat my Yetzer Hara and I wasn't successful. So it's over. There's no such thing as losing the war. You can lose battles. You shouldn't lose battles, but you might. It's possible. The 7th of October, the Jewish people lost a battle. Many battles. But the war of the Tkuma of the Jewish people, that we have returned to our homeland, and we should be successful in our homeland, that's Ratzon Hashem, that we should fight and keep on fighting with avodas Hashem and with Kedusha and with Tara and with Shmiras HaMitzvos and with Avos Yisrael and with Yerushalayim. Each person in and of themselves and Klal Yisrael as a whole, that we should keep fighting. There's no such thing as not fighting, because Tiferes Yisrael is what is at stake, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants that the Jewish people should be successful. Means the Netzach Shebetfaaret means don't give up fighting. We never give up the fight. That's Ben Adam Lemakom, that every single battle is a battle to be won for the sake of Tiferes Yisrael. What about in the Midas Ben Adam La'atzmaut? So the midah of Ben Adam La'atzmaut, it's important to know this is also very deeply connected to the avodah of the Jewish people right now, is that the midah of Tiferes is also the midah of Rachamim, as we have noted a number of times. You have the midah of Chesed and the midah of Gvura. The midah of Rachamim is the midah of Tiferes. It's that which looks at the big picture. And it's possible, when we look at the midah of Rachamim, which is a very deeply and powerfully Jewish midah. The Jewish people are Rachmanim, Baishanim, Gomer, Chasadim. We are known as Rachmanim, Bnei Rachmanim. We are merciful people. We're people that try to see the big picture in and about each and every human being in the world. Sometimes one needs to be menatzeach on their own Rachmanos. Sometimes when you look at a situation and you want to be merachim, you have to look at it and say, I'm not going to be merachim because that is not Ratzon Hashem. Sometimes we have to be chazak about these things. And sometimes that means internally, that a person has to be strong with themselves and say, I'm not going to be nice to myself after I've done this avera again and again and again and again. I'm going to be harsh with myself. I'm going to act with midas hanetzach. I'm going to win. And sometimes that means that when we see people that are trying to destroy the Jewish people, or that are trying to destroy the Torah Kedosha, or that are trying to downgrade Tiferes Yisrael, the beauty of the Jewish people, and the importance of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the world, that we act with midas hanetzach. Even though we want to be Rachmanim, even though we want to act with the way of Rachmanis, sometimes we have to be menatzeach on that midas harachmanis in order that the ultimate goal of Tiferes is achieved. That the big picture of the big picture, the Tiferes Shebetfaaret that we spoke about yesterday, that's achieved. Sometimes you have to act with the midas hanetzach. You have to act with strength, and you have to act with victory, and you have to act with a persistency and a consistency of persevering. To say, we're not going to relent. We're not going to say, we'll be tolerant of everybody's opinion. No, we won't. We will not be tolerant of opinions that want to destroy us. That's not an okay opinion. That opinion is not valid. We're not going to be tolerant of kfir. We're not going to be tolerant of being mevaze, of denigrating and desecrating Tiferes Yisrael. We're going to be menatzeach so that those things exist, even though we want to be Rachmanim. The avoda of Rachmanis is something which is exceedingly important, but it's not something that we always want to be living in accordance with when it's not in the best interest of the Jewish people and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And finally, when it comes to our midah of Netzach Shebetfaaret, Bein Adam Lechaveroi, sometimes the avoda is that when we are acting with Rachmanis to another Jew, and you don't want to anymore, because they have bothered you enough times, that at this point, you just want to give them a clap and say, Bubala, enough, I'm done. But you know that you should give them Rahman. The midah of Netzach Shebetfaaret means even when somebody is frustrating you, and even when somebody is upsetting you, and even when they've done it 1,000 times, and you still, they are expecting, and you're expecting yourself to be Merachim, the midah of Netzach Shebetfaaret means you're still going to see them as beautiful. Even when you don't want to. Even when you don't want to feel that sense of Tiferes, that sense of Racham, and that sense of Emes. Sometimes you want to kick the kid out of class, and you want to tell your child you can't go to the party that you want to go to. You can't. And then they scream, they cry. Netzach Shebetfaaret means I'll forgive you again. I'll forgive you again because like HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Merachim al Abris. HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves all of Klal Yisrael, loves the whole world, and is Merachim on everybody. So to embody that midah of being Merachim where it is appropriate to do so, even when it's difficult. That's also the midah of Netzach Shebetfaaret. B'Hashem Yisbarach. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give us the strength to be menatzeach on our Rachmanas when we need to against our enemies, and to be menatzeach in order to perpetuate Rachmanas and Tiferes to all of Klal Yisrael, and that this Yom haatzmaut we should be zeichet to do all of them.